Hey everyone, let's explore a relatively untapped resource of additional evidence supporting the theory that Jar Jar Binks is a master of the Force.
Where's a Jedi?
Namely, the animated Clone Wars cartoon series from Cartoon Network. Here, I won't go into the plethora of evidence from the films which illustrate his remarkable skills such as force jumping, mind manipulation, and combat, to name a few. But if you are not familiar with it, I highly recommend reading the Reddit post which popularized it and watching some of the videos on YouTube. The first episode Jar Jar appears in, episode 8 of season 1, titled Bomb Bad Jedi, was not subtle at all. In fact, it couldn't have been much more overtly heavy-handed. Padme, C-3PO, and Jar Jar are sent to Rhodia in an attempt to persuade Senator Farr to keep Rhodia's allegiance with the Republic. En route, Palpatine comments on how dangerous the mission will be, but Padme refuses a clone escort. We then see Jar Jar contemplating here while Palpatine describes the dangers. Possibly sensing the presence of the Trade Federation and the inevitability of Padme's subsequent capture, Binks seems to devise a plan which will result in his remaining separated from Padme, so as to be available to rescue her when the time comes. Jar Jar then immediately, accidentally, spins 3PO's chair, causing him to trip onto the navigation panels, which results in the ship veering out of control. Palpatine suggests that Jar Jar not be involved in the negotiations, and after landing, Padme instructs him to remain on the ship. Padme is of course quickly apprehended by the Trade Federation under the command of Viceroy Newt Gunray.
Viceroy, I should have known.
Battle droids are dispatched to Padme's ship, and of course, with the large magnet, Jar Jar makes easy work of them through his patented bumbling ways, all while keeping 3PO in one piece. Here, after tumbling off the side of the platform, we can assume Jar Jar performs another force jump,
Misa, okay.
much like he did twice in The Phantom Menace. Listen to his voice as he falls.
Jar Jar! But Misa saved
However, after destroying the droids, Jar Jar does destroy the ship by leaning on the magnet's controls. But was it really an accident? Was there a method to his madness? Did he destroy the ship in such a precise way so as to leave the only remaining functional button on board, the one that opens the closet door which contains a Jedi robe, which is presumably Anakin's? And if he knows it was there, does he know Padme and Anakin are more than just acquaintances? Either way, Jar Jar dons the Jedi robe, clumsily at first, but then with a skillful flip that makes it seem as though he is fairly familiar with them.
Come on, 3-so. We can do it.
While stalking about in the robe, Jar Jar hopes to intimidate the Trade Federation. While running from firing battle droids, we then see him fall through a grate to safety in the water below. Was it luck or something more? Here, Jar Jar speaks aloud, telling Padme not to worry and that he's coming to rescue her.
Don't be fearing, Padme. Misa coming.
Padme then manages to escape her holding cell. Was she bolstered by Jar Jar force speaking to her? Remember how susceptible she was to his force speaking in The Phantom Menace. Either way, she is quickly recaptured. But not to worry. All the while, Jar Jar is successful in attracting the attention of her captors, as he skillfully climbs a vine up to her now empty cell.
Shoot him!
Then, while being assailed by battle droids, he performs another graceful flip. That was not luck. That was skill. He then manages to fall into another trapdoor in the grate, and a battle droid fires a heat-seeking rocket at him. Jar Jar is then ambushed by a large eel slugfish, which, in swallowing him, protects him from the blast of the rocket. The fish then not only spits Jar Jar back out unharmed, but The two have established a bond.
Stay with me. You're my new pal.
Earlier, Jar Jar attempted to communicate with the native trees, but they did not receive him as warmly.
I don't think that requires translation.
Shortly afterwards is when Jar Jar first met the slugfish. Was this when they began to form their alliance? Did the fish swallow him to protect him, rather than to eat him? Newt Gunray commands his droids to execute Amidala, but Jar Jar grabs the Jedi robe once again and attracts their attention.
Shoot them all!
While dodging the lasers, he gets the droids to blast a hole in the grate so that the slugfish can bust through. The fish then proceeds to destroy just the battle droids and Newt Gunray's ship, while leaving the good guys unharmed.
I made a very good friend.
The clone reinforcements then arrive, and Gunray is taken into custody.
Master Pompat.
Did Jar Jar force persuade the fish? Certainly reinforces the theory that he force persuaded the fish in the Phantom Menace. And if so, it is not apparent that other Gungans have this ability. The novelization of Revenge of the Sith mentions that Obi-Wan and his Varactyl had developed a bond. The episode ends with Chancellor Palpatine commending the team and taking special interest in the work of Jar Jar Binks. Did Jar Jar know that even if Padme freed herself, she would soon be recaptured by Gunray and all of his battle droids, who would be on the lookout for her? Was he hoping to corral them all into one place? In this episode, with Jar Jar hanging upside down from one foot, we also see interesting allusions to the Hanged Man card of the tarot deck, which is attributed to the Hebrew letter Mem, which means water. The figure on the card is said to have become enlightened due to his new change in perspective. Does this say something about the viewer who changes his or her perspective on Jar Jar's role in the saga? Also note the Hangman card is followed by the Death card, which is attributed to the Hebrew letter Nun, which means fish or eel. And we have Padme greeting Senator Farr in her nunnish hood. All in all, the capture of Newt Gunray soon elicited a rescue attempt by Asajj Ventress, which inevitably forced a confrontation with the Jedi. The battle ended in a draw. However, Ventress made her escape in a Republic ship, which was traced to Grievous's lair, where another confrontation ensued, resulting in the death of one Jedi, which marks the end of this series of events. Was it Jar Jar's plan to set these events in motion? In episode 11 of Season 1, we have Jar Jar's next appearance. Here, we interestingly see him present in Chancellor Palpatine's chamber, while those in attendance receive the news that Count Dooku has fallen into the hands of pirates, who are now demanding the Republic for a ransom. Anakin and Obi-Wan are sent to verify that the pirates are indeed holding Dooku, and likewise end up as their prisoners. The pirates have now tripled their ransom, and Palpatine must now send a delivery team. Most importantly now, we seem to have another incident of Jar Jar putting words into someone's mouth.
Senator Karros and Representative Binks will be dispatched immediately.
A definitive incident, well into the Clone Wars era, of Jar Jar force persuading Chancellor Palpatine. Watch Jar Jar as Palpatine declares he's sending Senator Karros and Representative Binks. He mouths the words, Binks dispatched immediately.
Senator Karros and Representative Binks will be dispatched immediately. Senator Karros and Representative Binks will be dispatched immediately.
So, in the follow-up episode titled The Gungan General, Senator Karros and Jar Jar travel to Florum to deliver the ransom. Senator Karros mentions that the last time he went on a ransom delivery, he ended up spending 3 weeks in a dungeon.
The last time I went on one of these ransom missions, I spent 3 weeks in a dungeon.
As their ship prepares for landing, we have Jar Jar messing with the passenger seats. A rogue pirate then ambushes their ship,
Sorry, miss a fix it.
Jar Jar distracts the pilots, which leads to the ship taking a fatal hit. As they prepare for a crash landing, Jar Jar is unable to get into his harness. Senator Karras gets up to help Jar Jar, then as he returns to his seat, it mysteriously malfunctions, tossing him around the cabin as the ship crashes. Karras dies, which leaves Representative Binks in charge of the mission. Was this Jar Jar's plan? Did he know Karras would botch things up? While hiding from the pirates, Jar Jar performs what appears to be another forced jump out of a crater, while maintaining his foolish persona. The pirates then come at them with tanks, and the clone commander asks Representative Binks to negotiate with them. He then tells his fellow soldiers that Binks is smarter than he looks.
Don't worry, he's smarter than he looks.
At the same time, inside the pirate fortress, Anakin and Obi-Wan are undergoing severe torture after their third failed escape attempt. So, what does Jar Jar do? Binks then allows himself to be taken prisoner, but again, in his patented way, through more of his bungling technique, he takes out the fortress's power so that the two Jedi can free themselves, as does Count Dooku. A very noteworthy moment in all of this is when one of the pirates calls Jar Jar a plague, of all things.
Kill him! He's no representative, he's a plague!
Who's a plague? Misa?
This, interestingly, touches on the theory that Jar Jar is somehow the legendary Darth Plagueis, the former master of Emperor Palpatine, the wise Sith master who is purported to have created Anakin.
To influence the midi-chlorians to create life.
I know Jar Jar's got an accent, but he even says the word plague as plaga.
He's a plague!
Who's a plague? Misa?
Shortly afterwards, on Naboo, the evil scientist Novu Vindi has revived the deadly plague known as the Blue Shadow Virus. The recurring themes of this episode are plagues and creating life.
It's the plague.
Thanks to the support of my compassionate friends in the Separatist Alliance, I am creating life.
Also, you're creating life.
Yes, it was wiped from the galaxy generations ago, but I have given it life once again.
Ah, you're not creating life. You're taking life.
If those bombs get delivered, we'll be facing a galaxy-wide plague.
My job was to manufacture a plague, not to cure it.
One can't help but notice how intrigued Jar Jar is by Novu Vindi creating life.
I am creating life.
Also, you're creating life.
Jar Jar's first act in this episode is destroying the captured droid that knows the whereabouts of the secret lab where the scientist is carrying out his devious plan to release the virus across the galaxy. However, Jar Jar first discovered an insect on the captured droid that is native to only one specific region on Naboo. Did he accidentally destroy the droid to maintain his village idiot facade, knowing he had the key to the location of the lab?
Look out!
Either way, Padme and Jar Jar immediately set out to infiltrate the hidden lab. And, staying true to form, Jar Jar stumbles onto the lab's door. Padme relays the coordinates to Captain Typho, which allows him the opportunity to perform a geoscan of the underground lab, which the Jedi later used to devise their strategy. And it also gave him time to search for data on a possible cure. Once inside, Padme and Jar Jar learn from Vindi that the virus has been placed into bombs, which are now ready to be dispersed across the key star systems of the galaxy. The Jedi and their clone troopers arrive and deactivate the bombs, except for one, which Jar Jar of course finds by accident.
Something smells good in here.
However, the droid that had the last bomb stole a vial of the virus from a deactivated bomb, inserted it into a new bomb, and sets it off. The virus is released, infecting Ahsoka and her troopers.
I'm sorry, Ahsoka.
Later, while Anakin and Obi-Wan are off retrieving an antidote, Jar Jar grabs a pistol and fires off a shot, which happens to ricochet off Ahsoka's lightsaber. Padme jumps onto Jar Jar to save him from the blast, but knocks loose her air hose, resulting in her infection. If this was planned by Jar Jar, it's hard to say what he was trying to accomplish, other than later being subsequently assigned to blaster training.
Senator Amidala suggested we offer you training to help hone your skills with a blaster.
Really?
However, it is interesting that Binks is the only member of the strike team who was not infected by the plague. It's also interesting that Novu Vindi is of the Faust species. In Goethe's story of Faust, he and his apprentice create a little man called Homunculus. Jar Jar later returns in Episode 3 of Season 3. In it, the Trade Federation has blockaded and invaded the planet Ryloth, and its people are in need of food and supplies. Bail Organa and Representative Binks have asked the neighboring planet of Toydaria to assist them in a humanitarian relief effort by allowing them to use Toydaria as a staging ground. King Katunko fears that a Toydarian involvement in the war would jeopardize their long-standing position of neutrality, especially in the eyes of the Separatists and the Trade Federation, who are present during Organa and Binks' plea for help. King Katunko eventually agrees to secretly help the Republic under the nose of the Trade Federation. And, while Organa assists in the loading of the supply ships, what does Jar Jar do during the banquet as the relief ships depart for Ryloth? Deftly performs what he calls an interpretive artwork by balancing the dishes, which serves as a very effective distraction, a near impossible task, especially for someone considered so clumsy that it resulted in his exile from his own hometown. Only someone who's been practicing for years could pull this off. Or perhaps a Force user.
Art with Yusa and Misa.
What are you looking at?
He may even be using the Force here to keep the Nemoidians' heads turned, as the final relief ship departs from the other direction.
With Trade Federation to promote love and understanding.
Jar Jar returns in the second episode of Season 4, titled Gungan Attack. It is the second part of the season-opening trilogy in which a civil war, fueled by Dooku, has broken out on Mon Calamari between the Quarren and the Mon Cala. The Republic is unable to swiftly prepare an aquatic support team, so they turn to the Gungan army for help. Reluctant at first, Gungan leader Boss Leone instantly makes up his mind to send his army after being persuaded by...
Risa needs some thinking time to respond to this news.
Thinking? No such thinking. Misa thinking Padme would help us has helped us. Big time. Risa got to help her now.
You so right. Thinking times are done. Risa need to be leaving now.
Later, in the following episode, during an interrogation process, Padme's helmet is punctured and begins rapidly taking on water. Anakin and Kit Fisto attempt to remedy the problem, but fall short. It is Binks who saves her, with his perfect aim, by sealing the breach with his waterproofing saliva.
Jar Jar,
Padme! I'm sorry, I couldn't...
I'm here. Jar Jar sealed my helmet with his...
For a bumbling fool, he has great aim. Remember how he spit the frog out right into Sebulba's bowl in The Phantom Menace? In the next episode, titled Shadow Warrior, we find that Boss Leone has decided to aid the Separatists in a military attack on Theed. With the help of Jar Jar, Anakin and Padme discover that Leone is under the mind manipulation of a Gungan minister who, as Jar Jar points out, knows the ancient Gungan art of mind over matter, or basically, mind control.
They say we shall lose no ancient Gungan mystical power. Mind over matter.
The minister seriously wounds Boss Leone, leaving him incapacitated. Later, while holding Leone's crown, Jar Jar trips over nothing, and upon standing back up, puts the crown on his head. Anakin and Padme see Jar Jar's strong resemblance to Leone, and convince Jar Jar to impersonate him and call off the Gungan involvement in the attack on Theed.
We're gonna convince the Gungan army.
And here we go. Of all people, of all things, we have Jar Jar explaining the Gungan art of mind manipulation while performing an impersonation.
Boss Leone.
It's working.
We shall manipulated, head thoughts with lies and the misinformation. He said the real enemy.
Let that sink in. And oh yeah, the opening theme of this episode? This. Yes, this. Anyways, Jar Jar, disguised as Boss Leone, soon sees that Grievous is leading the Separatist army and stalls him while General Tarpals has the entire droid army shut down. Grievous rapidly becomes impatient and begins to sense that this is not Boss Leone. Does Jar Jar manipulate Grievous into kicking over the table, which caused the battle droid to open the door, and then turn around, allowing Jar Jar means to safely exit Grievous's ship? Upon chasing Jar Jar out of the ship, Grievous is captured by the Gungan warriors. And again, we witness Jar Jar's impeccable aim. Grievous's capture was short-lived, however, as Dooku quickly captures Anakin at the suggestion of Sidious, and brokers a prisoner exchange. Padme was initially unwilling to trade Anakin for Grievous, but who changed her mind?
He's our friend.
Yep.
I know, Jar Jar.
Misa think you have to deal.
You should listen to Binks. He's right.
Jar Jar's final episodes came in the Season 6 duology titled The Disappeared, which provides us with some much-needed pieces to the Jar Jar puzzle. This was the final season of the Clone Wars, and Lucasfilms was only slated 13 episodes, so they had to present all of the stuff they felt was important in these last 13. So, to commit 2 episodes to Jar Jar says a lot. The episode begins with Queen Julia of the Bardotans in her plea to the Republic Senate for help in investigating the enigmatic disappearance of the ancient Dagoyan mystics of her council, which poses a danger not only to her people, but also the entire galaxy. She does not want senators to investigate the matter or even the Jedi. She insists on having only Jar Jar Binks sent to explore the dark mystery. We then learn through Yoda that Queen Julia and the Bardotans have a strong and important connection with the living Force. Unlike the Jedi or the Sith, they are not warriors. Their connection with the Force is a passive one. They focus on intuition, knowledge, and harmony with the universe. We also learn that they do not think favorably of the Jedi. They see the Jedi as kidnappers, due to their practice of taking young children against their will. Palpatine urges the Jedi to assist Binks on his mission. Mace Windu agrees, and volunteers to join Binks on his trip to Bardota. We quickly learn that Jar Jar and Queen Julia are not only longtime friends, but also lovers. Yoda sees that Julia finds Jar Jar's innocent mind valuable. We then see Jar Jar and Julia performing Tai Chi while meditating and mind melding, all of which Jar Jar seems very familiar with. Julia states that she believes Jar Jar is the only one that can solve this problem. While Mace and Jar Jar take a minute to talk privately, Julia mysteriously vanishes from her chamber. The Dagoyan Council reconvenes and informs Jar Jar of an ancient prophecy which began with a dark, demon-worshipping cult. It speaks of the Dagoan Masters and the Queen's vanishing, which will initiate an era of darkness engulfing the galaxy. The Council sees the presence of the Jedi as a harbinger of doom, but Jar Jar insists that Master Windu, as his servant, is there to help them. They agree to team with Windu as they set out for the underground cult temple. While searching for the missing mystics and the Queen, Jar Jar stumbles across a piece of Julia's headdress. He is then captured by the cult and taken down to their temple. There we learn the evil cult is stealing the living force essence from the Masters and containing it within a glass orb. Jar Jar is selected to be sacrificed next, but insists he is not strong with the Force. Was he trying to mind trick the cultists? Mace finds where he has been taken and rescues him. The two then try to save the Queen, but the cult leader escapes with her in a ship and departs the planet. Jar Jar then once again convinces the mystics that Mace Windu is there to help them, and incites another standing ovation, like he did when he convinced the entire Galactic Senate to abandon democracy, which is not the same at all, but still worth noting. Here, Mace also tells Jar Jar that he is starting to make more sense to him.
Jar Jar, maybe it's this place, but you're starting to make sense to me.
Master Windu concentrates on the force contained within the orb and senses the location of the Queen. They track the cult leader to the moon of Zardosa Styx and eventually catch up with him and the Queen as he and his people carry her to the secret temple. During the first part of the chase, Jar Jar is surrounded by cult members. Then we cut to Mace, and we don't see how Jar Jar got past the ones standing behind him. During the rest of the chase, we see Jar Jar deftly dodge cannon blasts, which is not only typical Jar Jar fare, but even more so, wisely, it attracts Mace to the proper location, as he had been taken far off track. Upon Mace's arrival, however, Jar Jar accidentally knocks him over, allowing a cult member the opportunity to grab the saber out of his hand. Jar Jar eventually punches the man and grabs the saber with his tongue. He spits it directly back towards Mace, who then uses it to defeat two Gundarks. Jar Jar then once again proficiently knocks the man down with a punch to the face. We then get a deeper view into who the dark mastermind behind all of this is, the notorious witch, Mother Talzin. She intends to assimilate the stolen living force into herself, which when combined with her powers of dark magic, will make her more powerful than any Jedi or Sith. In other sources, we see that Palpatine saw Mother Talzin as a threat, which explains his desire to have the problem taken care of by any means necessary. It also may show us that he sees Jar Jar as a capable agent. Eventually, Mace and Jar Jar come upon the cult temple. Jar Jar activates the Stone Guardians, but he and Mace, in tandem, engage them in battle. Jar Jar skillfully dodges one of their punches, then uses one of their cannons to destroy the remaining guards, tying back into his firearm training.
Senator Amidala suggested we offer you training to help hone your skills with a blaster.
They then confront Mother Talzin and her cultists, moments before the conjunction of the local sun and moons aid in her conquest of Julia's Force essence. While Mace takes on the Mother, Jar Jar uses the cannon which he carried up the long steps and blasts the cult members, without killing the leader. He then frees Julia and combats the cult leader, positioning him onto the altar the moment it is activated and sucks out his living force essence. Jar Jar then accidentally knocks over the sphere, causing it to break open and explode. All of that light force energy, the opposite of what we saw when Palpatine died in Return of the Jedi, does not harm the good guys, but kills the cult leader and vanquishes Mother Talzin. Julia thanks Jar Jar and reiterates that she knew he would save her.
I knew you would save me.
Jar Jar insists the thanks should go to Master Windu, who postulates with Julia that a new era of trust between the Bardotans and the Jedi may be at hand.
This is a new beginning for the Bardotans and the Jedi.
Perhaps.
So, what are the takeaways in these two episodes? We see that Jar Jar has been longtime companions with a powerful Force sensitive, and he seems to be familiar with martial arts, meditating, and mind melding, which helps to explain and fortify the theories brought forth from what we see in the films. It also raises some interesting questions, one of which is, does Jar Jar lie? He says he's not big with the Force, and in Season 1 he says he was no Jedi.
They mean you.
He's not a Jedi.
However, in this episode he also claimed to his close friend that Mace Windu was his servant.
He is your servant, then.
Yes, that is the truth. Master and Mace is Misa humble servant.
He also said he was not a warrior,
Misa no Bombat warrior.
but told the cultists that he was,
Misa Bombat warrior.
and showed it on numerous occasions. He also told these vendors that he already has a piece of the fruit that they are pushing on him.
Misa already got one of those.
Jar Jar seems to be as flexible with the truth and perspectives as the Jedi. What other cloak of deception is he employing? Also, cutting to the chase, no pun intended, why did Jar Jar continually stall Mace's pursuit of the Queen? Well, for one, if they had gotten there any sooner, they would have arrived before the Mother and not have had the opportunity to defeat her. But most importantly, they had to arrive just before the conjunction so that Jar Jar could place the cult leader onto the altar. Did Jar Jar know this? Does he know that timing is everything? Funny that earlier Mace tells Jar Jar not to rush into the pursuit, but was it Jar Jar all along who was controlling the timing of the mission? And earlier, while in the underground temple, Jar Jar dropped his comlink, which stalled Master Windu. It allowed the cultists time to draw the living force from one more Dagoyan mystic, without which there may not have been enough to defeat Mother Talzin. And remember, in the Bombad Jedi episode, Jar Jar stalled in saving Padme until Newt Gunray and all the battle droids were collected into one place for the slugfish to take care of. And in the Blue Shadow virus, did Jar Jar know that the others were wasting time trying to learn the location of the lab from the battle droid? Is that why he destroyed it? Jar Jar wasted no time in finding the door, and we learn that if he'd gotten there just a few seconds later, Vindy would have began loading his bombs onto his ships. Jar Jar's knowledge of Naboo's flora and fauna and his quick action saved the lives of trillions. Yes, last-second timing is a typical storytelling device, but what sets these Jar Jar episodes apart are the times Jar Jar stalls the protagonist's mission, or in the case of the Blue Shadow virus, expedites it. Isn't it interesting here that the only threat to the galaxy that was bigger than Darth Sidious was thwarted by Jar Jar and Mace Windu, which gives Mace his proper due. Another important thing to notice is that the point Jar Jar keeps hammering home is that he and Mace Windu make a great team. That he alone couldn't have saved the Dagoyan people, nor could have Mace alone. Which leads us to this question. What are the takeaways from all of Jar Jar's episodes as a whole? Besides augmenting the evidences already seen in the films, it seems Jar Jar knows that his style of Force use and the style of the Jedi are both best when used in tandem, and that sometimes even the timing of the Jedi is not as precise as it needs to be for optimum outcome and ultimate success. What are your thoughts on Jar Jar? Is he just a bungling fool? A trained Jedi or Sith? Or another kind of Force user altogether? Is he good, evil, or neutral? Is he aware of his Force use or not? Is he an avatar of the Force? Is he the host of the essence of a former Force master? I myself do not take any particular stance, other than that I strongly believe that there's more going on with Jar Jar than meets the eye, and I love investigating it. It's definitely made the prequel era enjoyable, and it got me to watch the Filoni Clone Wars series, which I am immensely grateful for. If you're a fan of Star Wars, but are unhappy with the prequels, do yourself a favor and watch this series.
Maxie Big the Force